Welcome back to the deep dive on marketing from indie game business this week. Next up, we've got Parker. She's the director of events and operations over at our friends at the IGDA, and they are going to be going rogue. That gets me every time, Parker. And even when it's like sprayed right out there in front of me, so I'm looking at it, still gets me every single time. Anyway, going rogue, Parker, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying everything so far. I'm sure it's been an amazing summit of information today. We're doing Going Rogue, how community and connections can stealth market your projects. I'm going to be talking about things in a very loose and vague, ethereal kind of way, but nonetheless, it's meant to be applicable to anything and everything. Now, who am I even to be doing this? So, hi, once again, Parker Wallace. My pronouns are they, them. I like to remind people I'm Canadian, so if you start hearing the accent, I apologize in advance. I'm the Director of Operations and Events with the International Game Developers Association, also known as IGDA. I am also the Communications Manager at Women in Games International. I have 15 plus years in events, 12 in nonprofit management, and I do a lot of other weird things. I am a TTRPG nerd. I am a rogue main before people start to even ask. And I am a proud parent, of two cats, one of whom may show up. Either of them could end up showing up at any given time, because that is just how it is. And I will be actually very surprised if one of them doesn't. And because of this, I know better than to not pay the pet tax. As you can see here, I've got two little voids. Top one is Thanatos. He's a gremlin. Bottom one is Nyx. She's a queen. And yes, I was playing Hades a lot when I got them. So anyways, moving on to actually today's topic, which is what is community management? I would love it if people would throw it in chat what you think community management is, what resonates with you when it comes down to community management. Because this is something that can get looked at in a bunch of different ways. And it becomes a very, like I said earlier, a lot of things are going to be kind of vague and amorphous. Herding cats is a very good way to put that. I promise it's the only audience engagement piece I'm going to make you do today. The rest of it will be me talking and not poking at the audience for answers. Normally I do a bit more of that, but I decided to be nice to you guys. It is herding cats. It's not even herding cats, but it's engaging with cats. I love the cats metaphor. I'm actually going to run with that one for 2 seconds. It is effectively having a group of cats and needing to keep them interested and engaged, so that way they don't run off and leave their enclosure, so they don't need enrichment elsewhere. It's actually providing enrichment in a lot of those ways. Building an engaging community in large parts marketing. Yeah, building an audience, staying connected with them, and sort of helping them connect each other and get the most out of it. Yep, 1000%. These are all excellent descriptions for community management. How I see community management is always something akin to it is a conversation, a dialogue, a multi-way street. I actually started going down a street metaphor earlier and then realized that was a terrible idea because that is just a traffic jam. Or it's scramble crossing in Shibuya in Japan. Feeding your social media often and making contacts. Making contacts is a huge element of it. So I've got some fun little examples, and some of these we're going to see come back a little bit later, but community management comes in a number of different forms, whether, yes, social media and how you connect with other people on social media, whether it is the jokes, the memes, the comments that you make, or giving people interesting tidbits into your game. For the record, that top left screenshot is from the Black Tabby Games Discord. I love them, and they do some brilliant stuff with community marketing, community management and marketing, if you ever need a fun example. Anyways, and this one we're going to get to in a minute. Well, later, eventually. Why are we bothering? Why do we care about people? Why are we bothering with community and people altogether? Because sometimes I know we want to be like, oh, gods, no people. Yeah. And so why bother to build community? Like you were saying, it's in building that engagement It's so people start to see your brand, your game, your persona. You can look at this from not just a game perspective, but also from a branding perspective, but also if you are somebody who is a content creator on the side, it is also pulling that. It's building love for what you're creating, for what you're putting out there in the world, and building that loyalty. It's networking. On LinkedIn, two of my favorite examples, Haley Rose just does a fantastic job of building their community and networking with individuals that way. And Shelby Modena has a fantastic thing that she does at GDC where she encourages, if she sees somebody with the same dyed colored hair as her, because hers is bright pink, she will go and do selfies with them. And that is how she builds her contacts, her community, and how she chooses to engage with people. So doing it is a bunch of, there's a lot of different ways to do it that isn't just putting a message out there. But you can network, you can connect, and it's also developing that sense of belonging. People love it when they feel like they're a part of something, like they are a part of something bigger, whether it is, your little community for your game, whether it is your community for your content, whether it's a community for your brand. So I think about it in a lot of the terms of IGDA. So you're probably going to hear a lot of extrapolations to that, I will say, often. But the idea at the end of the day is about creating, build your guild. Build your guild is like my little thing that I started going with this whole thing. Even if it's a thieves guild, even if it's that, you are still building that group of people to be there with you and support you. Anyways, not so hot take. Marketing does not equal community management. Just because you're marketing something doesn't mean you're doing community management. Marketing and community management is a way to do marketing, but they are not the same thing. And I feel like a lot of people who are watching right now probably completely already know and understand and resonate with that. But I wanted to put this here that community management is a tool for marketing and can be used as a tool for marketing. But marketing, the idea of putting something out in promotional, I think of marketing with a lot of promotional items. Whether you're just putting things out into social media, if you're putting things out into the universe, but you're not engaging with the people who respond to it, then it's not community management. You're just throwing things out into the universe and hoping somebody pays attention, which isn't always going to be something that works. But I'm sure there are many other people who've already talked that bit to death. So we're not focusing on that today. Today we're focusing on going rogue. And so, of course, I am that creative nerd who, did I make it into an acronym? Absolutely. So when I look at community management and how to build that community and build your connections, because realistically, if you build it and you build it well and you cultivate it and nurture it and whatnot, it will help market what you're trying to do. It creates a loyal fan base. How do we get to that point is kind of the big crux of this whole thing. So where I always try to start is resources. What resources am I working with in any given situation? And this is always something, especially if you're like a new community manager or just coming in with a new group and working with them, it is always that assessment, that audit of what tools am I playing with? What is in my adventurers pack? What am I starting this adventure with? Do we have people? Do I get to be full-time on this? Is there somebody else who's full-time on this? Do I have a designer or do I have to be the designer? Always good questions. Money. How much money are we able to throw at things? Not for the reason of like paid ads or anything, but for the reason of systems and tools. I mean, there's incredible Discord bots out there that can help, but a lot of them will have paid services, and being able to upgrade those things to premium, being able to help put all of your feeds in one place. So that way you're not running between 12 different social media platforms, to be able to connect with people and talk and all of that jazz. Time. How much time do you have? Don't overwork yourself. And that is a big thing. And having realistic expectations on especially those first three is very, very key to be able to assess and look at and go into. Content. Do you have anything that you're working with? Is this a brand new company and there's nothing? In which case, we're going to have to get real creative here. But do you have devlogs you can pull from? Do you have screenshots and little bits and pieces, no matter how small, is still a great way. Like I showed you earlier, that was the back end of the coding that they were using as a fun little gimmick to show people some of the options that exist. They didn't do it through the artwork, although the artwork is beautiful. And so, but they used other aspects of content. And so what kind of content do you have to work with? Do you have influencers? Do you have people already in your circle that are a fan of you that you can then leverage into this? Do you have an existing community? Do you have, whether it's your own personal community, because we as people always build our own circles around us. And so do I make some of my friends, do I have friends that may or may not be following in here now for me? Absolutely. But that's how you build some of this, is you have that existing community and you pull them into other things you do. My brother, actually, family is a great thing for that too. My brother has been dragged into so many things. Anyways, do you have a mascot? Do you have something fun you can work with in that respect? That kind of ties back into the content a bit more. Same thing with product and platform. Like, what do you tangibly have to work with that you can then have fun with? Because that is a starting thing. Because unless you're doing this as a content creator, you're trying to market something. You're trying to market the end result, which is a game, a project, whatever. Or if you're trying to market yourself, like, there's always going to be something else that has to be the sun. It has to be the center of the universe for this. The center of the universe for your community. So always audit what you're working with and figure out your resources. You're also going to want to re-audit, because things change as things grow and expand. And as you have more of a community, it's a good opportunity to sit down, look at it, and be like, hey, I didn't realize we have these people who are very influential in their own circles that are now part of our circle. How can we leverage that? How can we work with them? We have more content because we have a DLC coming. We have more. You are always having more. And so you're always going to want to reevaluate your resources and see how you can bring them into what you're building. Because the community, having people is one thing, but having a shared purpose is going to be what ties people together even more. Outcomes. Why the heck are you even doing this? Know these outcomes, but also know what that means to you. Because what a lot of people get told, hey, we just want to put this thing out into the universe. We want to get the game to sell. Cool. If you sell one game, is that a success? Is that considered successful? Is like, know what success means to you. Is it having X amount of wish lists? Is it having X amount in sales? Is it having X amount of people in the Discord server? Is it having X amount of viewers? And so it's knowing what those metrics are to you and what that looks like in order for you to also be able to work towards it. Because generally saying, hey, I want you to build a community is great. But if you don't know what that community is going to look like, how are you supposed to get to that point? How are you supposed to build the road and use your resources to get there? So this is, it seems very, I think it's common sense, but it isn't always, because sometimes we get so stuck into the nitty-gritty details of a number of other things that we forget what's the end goal. And that goalpost should always be moving. You should never be done. There's always things that you can do, whether it's also tweak and make things better, safer, more inclusive. There's always more goalposts to add in. But you should always be looking at these and figuring out what that is and what that means to you on a semi-regular basis. Grounds. Where is your community going to live? I know so much of this seems very vague and very high level overview, but everything becomes so nuanced and specific for each individual community that if I did a presentation that was nuanced, it would be useful for 2 of you, and not however many there actually are here. So when it comes down to the grounds, figure out where you want your community to live. Figure out where they are, your ideal people. Like, in a lot of cases, it's gamers. We know they're on Steam, well, for the most part. We know a lot of them are on Discord, which is why there's so many Discord servers. But also there's so many people who have so many Discord servers. So how do you make sure you stand out? How can you use other things? Can you use Twitch? Can you use YouTube? Blue Sky, mailing lists, Instagram, TikTok still. I put Tumblr on there because I've seen some dev communities do really well over there, especially if it aligns with your game. But the biggest thing is figuring out what aligns with you as a developer, as a community manager, as a creator, and what's going to resonate also with your audience. Don't go on to everything. You will lose focus. I know I'm preaching to the proverbial choir, but don't. The biggest thing is because then you're dividing your audience. You want to diversify just enough to attract new people, but if you diversify too much, you are in trouble. You are just going to you're not going to get anywhere. And so sorry, I'm like, I don't know what else to say on this one. That is pretty much all I've got. But anyways, so you shouldn't be doing the same thing everywhere. Each platform also has its own voice. Look at this differently, especially those who do social media marketing and pushing that out that way. What you have to look at is, what is the voice there? What you say on Blue Sky is going to be different than how you promote through Discord, how you promote through your emails, how you go through everything. The voice is going to be the same, but it's going to still be different. Cool. Understanding. This is another thing where it's, who are your people? If you are not going to be for everyone. And that's fine. Don't try to be. So what you want to do is find your niche, embrace it, but also know how to go beyond that. Figure out what they like, figure out what you like. My favorite thing that we did recently with IGDA specifically is, so you'll see on the top the I want you to volunteer with IGDA GDC. I made this meme in about 5 minutes because I needed to push out volunteer present. I need to push out volunteer applications. There we go. For GDC, Game Developer Conference, in case you aren't aware. And so what I did was I did this. I posted it maybe once on social media, and it kept getting shared over and over and over again. We doubled our volunteer applications from 2024 to 25. For the record, we normally end up with about 30 or so applications. I had 86 to go through at the end of the day, which was a lot. And I didn't push it much. I've reached out to past volunteers, which is part of our community, the community of people that already know who I am and what it is like to work with me. Because in this case, it's not necessarily promoting volunteering at GDC. It is, what experience are they going to have when they do that? What experience are they going to have by being a volunteer with me who's running the volunteers? So a bit of it is pitching, what is it like to work with me? So with this, I knew that I could not go for just the stereotype. Like, I am not putting this out and just grabbing whoever seems interesting. I need people who are going to work with me and understand who I am. And so when it comes down to that, I like memes. The bottom one, which is the GDC prep, this is fine. This is one of five different memes that I made on a day where I think I was tired. And I decided to instead make memes and share them as the weeks went on leading up to GDC with my volunteers. The thing is, I'm always trying to attract the people that are going to be interested in working with me, which is why I have a retention rate for my volunteers of 25%. I get at least 15 returners every single year lately. Some of them come back from 2 years ago. Like last year wasn't going to work for them. They came back this year instead. So the thing is, you start seeing, when you start attracting the right people and understanding who those people are, but also understanding who you are and why you're bringing certain people in, that is going to help you understand, one, the community you are building, but two, how to reach them. I know that I can do memes and it goes over very well in a lot of places. In certain other areas, I've seen, like I've said, that you'll see mini games, you'll see people doing like I see like the trends online lately of, I think there's like the pinup, not the pinup dolls, but the cutout dolls, or like what with the starter kits and stuff like that. Some of them are trends. Some people who really enjoy the trends, that will be the thing that you can attach yourself to and do and follow and attract those people. It is not for everybody. Not everybody likes filling them out or doing those things. That's not always going to be the thing that sticks. For me, it is always memes. There are always memes in different conversations. So, understanding them, that takes some playing, by the way. That is not just something you like, know yourself, start with that, and then branch. The E is for experiment and engage. Now, this is kind of the big one, and I've got a bunch to go off of with this. There are mostly a lot of different examples of different ways that I have built and engaged in order to get into things. Because what works for one group is not going to work for everybody. What works for one game is not going to work for them all. What works for one developer and how they promote themselves and how they develop themselves as their brand effectively, it's not going to work for everybody. But the biggest thing is you need to experiment and you need to engage with others. We do not live in a silo. We do not live in a vacuum. We are we need, the whole thing with community is community. It's other people. That is the thing here. And so you need to engage with other people. And so that's where I've got some fun examples of things that we've done, things that I've seen that we'll kind of dig into. I'll be honest, Blue Sky is my favorite playground because not everybody can just go and start playing and do silly, ridiculous things. Obviously, if you've got an established brand, you can't always do the goofy, silly things. I always think back to something like Duolingo, although I don't stand by that app because we won't get into that today. But think about what people pushed the limits with when it came down to the mascot. Think about how that built a community around people wanting to have the response from the bird. People wanted that. They wanted shenanigans. They wanted that energy to be able to build it. And always be ready to switch it up because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Be silly, but professional silly. Yeah. Great example. So this is GDC conference being silly. And then me being silly right back. Because I'll be honest, the more that you can do this with especially other groups that are also trying to do this, the more friends you're going to make. Don't pretend like everybody should just engage with you and then you'll respond. You need to go out and go do this with other people too. My favorite thing on a Wednesday is literally, and I've done it already today, is going through Wishlist Wednesday and commenting on games. And I'll go into one of those experiences after. But with this was GDC's Blue Sky accounts being like, hi, I'm a Scorpio. I love GDC and I'm not bent on world domination. I make comments that are very much indicative of there is a human behind this account. And that is kind of the fun part of it all. It means that we can now have banter with each other. We've given each other that permission to do this and engage with each other so we can continue to do this. It only benefits both of us. But they need to also be doing it more to everybody else so that way, because somebody needs to exist. Somebody needs to be there. This is one of my favorite examples. And so this was one of those things where, again, Wishlist Wednesday. When it comes down to Wishlist Wednesday, again, like I just said, I love going and finding specifically indie games and making very silly, not silly comments, but I will be like, oh my God, this game's adorable. Oh, I love this. Or if they make a joke, I will respond to the joke. One, every community manager is going to love you and see you in a positive light. Because believe it or not, that is actually going to make community management easier when you're not being a dick. Go figure. So what I do is that is part of what I do when it comes down to community management. I engage. I don't just experiment, I engage with other people. This one, Murray Wildwoods, this was very fun and very enjoyable for so many reasons. It's also very good for your mental health, I think. So, because for IGDA, our goal, so actually, how about I'll go through my own little rogue here. We don't have a lot of resources. We're a nonprofit. We're a team of 3 people. So we are small and mighty, which means I don't have time to spend a ton of time on doing this, but I'll still spend 30 minutes to an hour just doing just the Wishlist Wednesdays. I otherwise spend my mornings going through and engaging regularly with content. Our big thing is we do want to try to get people to become members. We want to get studios interested and aware of us. And so funny story, GDC might have a huge community. Not necessarily. If you look through enough of their analytics, they have the numbers, not the engagement. And the engagement is what you want. I get a lot of comparative things to GDC. That's a whole other side tangent. So we can talk about that more so afterwards. Just because they have big numbers doesn't mean that they have a community. Because nobody's really engaging. Because a lot of what they do is marketing. They push it out. They responded because I engaged. Do not expect everybody to come to you. You need to also go to them. This is the example. I respond to the game saying this looks so zen and so relaxing. To which they added their own character from their game in there to respond as an image. I then spent far more time than I really should have, but to me it was worthwhile to create a silly little cozy stamp of approval. Not gonna lie, this was giving me life that day. Especially considering all of the memes and jokes and whatnot afterwards, which then led to them creating this little video. There's no sound, by the way. I don't need it. They were knocking this out all within the same day, within maybe 30 minutes of each other. Clearly, they have somebody who's passionate and engaged and interested and wanted to. At the time where I pulled this, 1,400 views, not too bad, honestly. And that is, you start with these guys have stuck in my mind for that reason. And I've started to pursue them to become a studio affiliate. And so, but also indies, and I understand the industry these days. But it works for both of us because, one, they see us, our brand, being fun and engaging and nice to indies and giving a shit about them. Pardon my language, but you understand. And also, it's a good opportunity for them to play like this and engage and interact. And this is one of my favorite examples of it. Because it works out for both of us. Both of our images are being shown in a very positive light here. This is part of the community management that you always need to keep in mind when you're starting to engage is how are you being perceived? What are you building here? So we're building something that is more inclusive and more enjoyable that earns absolutely adorable things like this, in my opinion. So that was one of my other favorite examples of things that have been done here. I'm going to talk to a few more as I So I've got places for other learning. The Victoria Tran's newsletter. Victoria Tran, if you don't know, is the person who's the community management behind Among Us, which if you followed that at all, that is one of those chef's kiss when it comes down to community management, in my personal opinion, because of how they engage. As you saw way earlier in the presentation, I might just go back to that slide. We'll see. Let's go back to my examples because we'll talk to those a little bit more. Here, this is literally from like the other week where it's gonna be playing on a meme, playing on a joke, and which is one that happens, every year. It's not something that's right in the this is a joke that happens regularly. For those of you, if you don't know, because I know this can be a little international sometimes, like it is the NSYNC. It's going to be me turned into it's going to be May. Anyways, Google it. Know your memes. Memes are great. Victoria's newsletter is a banger. I will forever, she's my goal. I love her to pieces. What she puts in that newsletter is absolute gold. I cannot recommend it enough. I have used IGD as Blue Sky to recommend it. And she's messaged me back being like, oh my God, I appreciate you. Like, you get to have conversations with people. That's the cool part about community management. It's not just herding all of these cats, it's getting to have conversations with them. And so going back to it, it is so much about the engaging and the experimenting. That is, once you have all of it, it is those parts. So anyway, sorry, Victoria Tran, back to her, because I will go on about her for a long time. I clearly am in love. It's fine. But playing with memes like this, Among Us, those little dudes, being able to incorporate them, they're freaking genius because they're very easy to incorporate. But same thing with Murray. They've got it set up. They've set themselves up for success with their resources, with having the ability to do a quick video like they did in like 30 minutes. They have the resources. They made sure they had assets to be able to pull these things together. They can work with their artists to do the silly things. Or in a lot of the cases, again, Duolingo, the connections, the comments, the doing that with each other. Know what you have as resources and engage using that. It's not even just saying things, build something. And that becomes something that is so, so key to your marketing and staying interesting and relevant. Just because you put out a meme doesn't mean you need to ignore it. You don't leave it alone. You have to engage, because that builds things like Among Us. It's built things like Duolingo, which should not be. Anyways, they did too well, and then anyways. But I digress. We'll go back to the slide I was on, which was specifically the two resources. Victoria Tran's newsletter is one of the best things. There are meme generators online, by the way. If you are like, but memes are my shtick, and I would love to do it. This is from a meme generator. That is what this is. And so it's not, there's things out there to make your life easier. So you don't need a full art department. So you can do this as a solo dev. Because that is the other thing, is you can't, like, you realize this post, yes, it's on Blue Sky. They clearly haven't cultivated their community on Blue Sky because it had 6 likes. Don't hold other brands up to higher standards and think you can't reach them, by the way. Just don't, because you'd be surprised. I can do an entire session on being critical of other brands, but I will not today. Anyways, back to, I love this video. I could just keep playing this one. But again, it comes back to know your assets, have something like this. The conversations that happened, actually, I wonder if the other timestamps are on here. Not as much, but like it happened all within the same day, where we kept going back and forth, and that's fine. And you're not always going to live in your communities because you're probably busy doing other things. You're probably busy doing, whether you're drawing or you're working on the coding for the game, or you've got to go do other marketing and promote other things for your partners or whatnot, or you've got to do a live stream, or you have to do a talk. And you're going and doing that. It is all a part of that. And so you make time where you do. Wednesdays are a day where I know I'm going to sit down and do something. That is what I have. And I know I will focus on that. Wednesdays, I will also sit down and kind of go through I save all of Victoria's newsletters. I'll be super honest. I will go through a lot of the articles she shares. I will go through all of those pieces. The other one that's really kind of cool is Digital Thriving Playbook. I recently came across this one and I've started to explore it a lot more. There's some really interesting articles through there about cultivating that community and cultivating that. Being able to leverage all of this. Sorry, we're going to just put it to this as I continue talking. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Go check out the hashtag Wishlist Wednesday is everywhere. Just go look at them. There are some great indie games. Anyways, part of this is just because that's where I'm passionate. And that it comes back to the understanding. The understanding is I am passionate about indie games. I love them. So I'm going to go and make those comments on the games. It benefits the brand. It benefits what I am marketing and the community I'm trying to cultivate. But it also feeds into what I like. Because if you like it, you're going to do it a lot better. Let me tell you. Community management is a labor of love. That is what it is at the end of the day. Anybody building a community, you have to do it because you want to. And if you don't want to, you need to find somebody else who loves what you do enough to do it for you. Yeah, the social team for Duolingo, I wish to embody their insanity because it's beautiful and delightful. This ended up almost being an entire presentation of TikToks from Duolingo as a great example of, because that was one person, for the record. That was one individual who early 20s, I want to say first job or first internship, was working as a junior marketing manager with Duolingo, and she was able to get certain ideas greenlit. And that's just it. And that's the other thing is, if you are the boss in charge, if you are the person who has the power to say yes to things, say yes to your marketing people. Say yes to your community managers. Very rarely is it going to turn into an absolute PR nightmare, in which case you need to hire somebody different. But embrace that creativity, embrace the experimentation, embrace all of this. Allow them to go rogue, allow them to do weird shit, because that's where you're going to see what actually works for your community and also how it resonates with you. Because as soon as you find out that magical piece, then you're going to start to build. Again, Among Us could have been a really, really silly game. CDPR, yeah, right? That's just it. And that's what you see also. Actually, that leads me to another great point, though, is you see this a lot in the AAA studios. The people are there. The community isn't always, though. And so the community is sooner going to rise against you if you don't have them with you. So even if you are building to something bigger, I mean, again, Among Us became huge. It feels like virtually overnight. It never is, though. It always starts with small bits and pieces. Slay the Princess by Black Tabby Games is an incredible thing where they built the community over Scarlet Hollow, the first couple episodes of that game dropping, which, again, beautiful, delightful game. I love Black Tabby so much. Anyways, so they did that and then pivoted because they saw an opportunity and went and built Slay the Princess and knocked that out of the park. But it became a bigger deal because they had the community already there. They had people they could go into they knew their people. They understood. They had a strong understanding. They cast Jonathan Sims as the main voice, which, if you don't know, he is the voice actor. He's the main voice behind the Magnus Archives, a horror podcast. And they are doing a horror game. They knew their audience. They knew who they could use. They knew their resources to build that and work with their audience and give them what they wanted out of a game. It is a lot of give and take. Community management is not just, I want you to like what I'm doing. It is working with them. It is herding the cats, but making sure that you're also listening to the cats and understanding the cats and working with them, because then you will succeed. That is like the one thing I kind of want to make sure you guys like. You see, I keep going back to my acronym. It seems silly, but if you keep going back to these elements, you will be able to keep in mind what you are trying to do and be able to achieve it. That's the biggest thing, but also help each other. It is that engagement aspect that is still massive when it comes down to community management. You are not doing this. Community management is not a one-way street. It is Scramble Crossing in Shibuya. So that, I think that's where I'm putting this at this point. We're actually going to, I know I'm a little, I went really fast and I apologize for that. So we're going to move on to the Q&A. I know there's questions already. I've been paying attention somewhat to chat.
Yes.
I digress.
All right. First one up from Samuel. how do you get the first few people to care? I get your friends can join your Discord and support you, but how do you grow those first 50 fans for you to post to instead of just posting to the void?
Okay, so I love this one. Thank you, Samuel. So this is the engagement piece. This is if you can engage with other brands, entities, things that are similar to you. And so one of my favorite examples, actually, Blue Sky's been a very fun playground for me lately, because that one can become a very good opportunity to start building those fans, especially because people are just still getting into it and it's still fairly new and you can get away with a lot. One of the coolest things that Blue Sky has, and you can then redirect people to your Discord. You can put them there afterwards. Again, this is why I said you can do multiple focuses, but not just one, but not 20 million. They have this thing called starter packs. Blue Sky has starter packs, and what people will do is they create a starter pack, and then when somebody starts in Blue Sky, they can be like, "Ooh, I don't know who to follow. I don't know what to do. Somebody has a starter pack. Cool. I'm going to follow all of them." IGDA, when we first started on Blue Sky, it was a different marketing person that was managing that account. When I took it over, I was allowed to be weird on there, and I still am because we have a meme as our header image. But what we did was I engaged with other people, and I was like, "Hi, can we maybe be on your developer starter pack, please?" Literally is actually the message I put out there, and I wish like the fingers and everything. It was so silly and so dumb, and yet they said yes to me. So if you have a chance to say yes to somebody else, also do that. Don't be elitist about any of this crap. We're trying to help each other out in this industry, so be good. Like I said earlier, don't be a dick. But that's how we started at like 200 followers on Blue Sky 2. We've been 7,500 and continuously growing constantly, a few hundred more every month, which has been phenomenal. My executive director loved it and hated it because he was getting notifications to his phone. So and that turned over to 5K within a couple of weeks. So he had to go turn off notifications, which was a very fun thing. But I recommend starting in a place where you start to find other people, other game devs, and engage with their platforms, engage with their starter lists, and get yourself into a place where you can maybe get on one. Or start creating your own and start facilitating those conversations with other groups. That is going to be the biggest thing. Help other people, even if you don't have anybody to really push it out to. Help other people and see if they'll help you. Because by helping each other out, that's how we start to build our communities and be able to grow those circles to find our niches, find our people. But the more that you can interact with that are like you or similar to you, not competitors, but similar veins, similar genres, then you can start to build those first 50 and kind of expand from there. So I hope that helps. But also, Blue Sky starter packs, very, very fun. Blue Sky's like a game to me, and it's very entertaining. And I think that also helps because I treat it like a game.
I'm skipping ahead because this is the question that made me laugh in the middle of that, because I think everybody feels this.
Yes.
Can you help me not be scared of Reddit? Because that platform and their opinions scare the shit out of me.
I think, okay, so this gets a little personal because of also Reddit. Oh God, it's Reddit. Reddit the whole time. When it comes down to but the thing is, I always laugh because I survived the days of 4chan is how I think of it. I have been on the internet enough for long enough and I've had all manner of things get spread about me over there when I was way younger, and so my brain is like, I've survived worse. And I think that helps. When it comes down to Reddit, I do recommend having multiple accounts, though. Don't. Okay, so I was actually chatting about this with some of the people earlier, but like, have multiple accounts because then, and this works for all social platforms, because I'm not afraid to like and or comment on the posts I make for Wiki or IGDA. As my personal Parker Wallace account on anything. I will always do that. But Reddit's a great reason for this too, because then if you have some weird one that can't be traced back to you, that you can just be like, I don't care what happens over there. People can be mean and whatnot. You can go defend yourself on the other one. It is hell on the internet, but you can like pretend to have other friends, even though those friends are just yourself. Is it extra work? Yes. I don't care for Reddit. I'll be super honest. I go there occasionally and then I hate it. And it is, but I have survived 4chan, and therefore nothing you can say about me on Reddit can hurt me. But yeah, that when it comes down to not being scared of Reddit, come up with aliases. Come up with imaginary friends. Come up with your TTRPG character and put them on there and have them defend the hell out of you. If nobody else will, you should defend yourself. And that helps. That helps establish dominance when it comes down to Reddit. Yeah, otherwise leave it, because Tom has made a very good point with it hurting your mental health. Don't ever. I left my personal. I still manage Twitter for both Wiki and IGDA. I do not have a personal Twitter account anymore. So do things that are good for your mental health as well.
I just think the advice of establishing dominance on Reddit could go horribly bad in so many different ways.
So many ways. But I do love the D&D characters defend us on Reddit. Samuel, you got me. I see. We're good. Yeah, I survived Gamergate.
All right. So from Bingo Bard. So do you have a set schedule of when you engage, and how do you avoid falling into an ADHD rabbit hole? Yes, love this. I avoid social media because I will get sucked in forever. Also, hey, Parker.
Hi, Janie. Adore you. Yes, and so because also ADHD brain, we will otherwise lose forever to it. And so I do kind of create a set schedule for me and what it is I do. Well, first and foremost, I don't have notifications on anything for social media, because otherwise I would be lost forever and I would not get anything else done and I would be in a lot of trouble. But what I do is I set time. For me, it works out best first thing in the morning. And so what I'll do is I'll go on and I'll look at the different accounts and I'll see, okay, some of it is also to figure out what the heck's even happening in the industry or what's happening in the world that day. And so I'll go through, see what's interesting, yada, yada. The one exception to that is normally Wednesdays for me. Like I said, so I talked about Wishlist Wednesday. For me, that became a very fun thing that I've seen a lot of people engage in. And I was like, cool, I want to do this. So then Wednesdays, normally afternoon, normally after I just finished putting out a newsletter. This is a weekly newsletter for IGDA. Then normally I go and I spend a couple of hours because I have a good understanding of myself and my energy levels. I joke regularly that after 2 or 3 o'clock, I'm useless. Admittedly, that's why I scheduled my talk to this time, not because I'm useless, but because I'm not going to be able to do much else, but I can talk. Clearly, zero issues with that. And so normally around 2 or 3 on a Wednesday, and is this what I'm going to do immediately after this? Absolutely. I did a little bit already, but like, I save it normally for when I stop being useful. And I know that about myself. And so I can normally save it for that period. Do specifically my wish list Wednesday ones, just scroll for a little bit, see where it's at. I used to do a lot more on Twitter. I don't with IGD anymore. I stick to Blue Sky and I'll double check like comments and whatnot on LinkedIn. So I'll normally do those, but I try to make sure it's not during my peak productivity times. I do it from my bed when I'm waking up in the morning or when I do not have the attention span for focused work. And that's what I do.
That's actually
but it's
really
very much what
advice.
works for you. Huh?
Yes, that's really good advice. I mean, I didn't realize it, but I actually do the very same thing. It's like I schedule things in the morning because I know I'm useless before like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And then that's very, very, very good.
But it works. If you know when you're most productive, don't do social media when you're most productive. Absolutely, like keep it for when you need those quick little dopamine hits. And it's so much. It becomes kind of fun because then you're like, oh, I'm doing work. I'm being productive. When you're lying in bed or you've completely lost the plot on the day you need to go out for a walk to get bubble tea, and therefore you're sitting in the cafe and you need to, anyways. We're learning a lot about my schedule.
All right, so from Twitch, how do you identify potential evangelists for your project inside a community without approaching them directly?
So, well, know who's in your community. Which is tricky. But it does mean staying aware of your community and also the people that you want to attract to your community. When it comes down to potential evangelists, like, and I'm going to go potential evangelists, potential influencers, potential funders, like potential anything partners is probably a great way to look at this. If they know who those potential people could be, like know names in the industry. I hate it sometimes, but it kind of is the thing. And it's hard because Discord, you're like, who, what is, like, you don't know. I actually look at a lot of people's Discord profiles. Man, I go through a lot of them. People aren't, normally they have some sort of connection to who they are. A lot of times they'll still have actually their LinkedIn in there too, if they use it for work. And so you can identify them. And then it's just a matter of like subtly engaging with them. Whether it's not paying so much attention to them and then DMing them out of the blue, you just don't look at mine. Now I want to. No, but it's then finding ways to engage them in the Discord. If you see that they're commenting on something, respond. But that goes for everybody because you're responding in theory to everybody and connecting with everybody like that. And so the more that you can engage and showcase that you are engaged, you are present, you are here, and you are worthwhile of their time and money and or attention, it becomes a bit easier because then they may at some point be able to be prompted to reach out to you. How do you make that happen? It has to happen organically. If it doesn't happen organically, you're going to be in trouble. So that is my best advice for like seeing a name in your Discord and be like, oh, I need to become their best friend so they give me money or they back my game or they do it on their stream for all of their followers. Like, treat them like a normal human and treat them like part of the community.
All right, from YouTube, do you think that Wishlist Wednesdays really helps indies? Sometimes it just feels like an echo chamber with other developers, same as Screenshot Saturdays.
Yes and no. So because wish lists are a huge thing for indie devs on Steam because it actually helps the Steam algorithms, I've learned, to show if the more games that you are wish listed, the more likely you are to show up on certain up and coming lists and whatnot for Steam. And they're more likely to get excited about it and you'll get more visibility out of them. So, but when it comes down to the hashtag on social media, again, this is why I encourage people to start engaging with other games as well, and not just your own. Respond with your own little mascots and people and things, and it's great. I've seen it. But the thing is, it feels like an echo chamber. You're still creating noise, though. You are still creating things that are going out into the universe and therefore perpetuating your marketing. It may not seem like a giant splash, but it is those baby steps, those small drops that continue. Community management is not something that is like done in one big bang. It is done in so many tiny movements constantly. And that is the frustrating thing for some people. Great thing for people with ADHD, I think. But that is the nuances that you have to do to it. So it can feel like an echo chamber, I know, but I also don't ever think people should give up on it because it is a great way, because the more that we talk about it, the better it gets for everybody. And the more that we can encourage other people to have those conversations and engage with each other, the better it is for all of us, because eventually it does go beyond your immediate area. The internet is great like that, where it does reach beyond that and eventually hit people and hits your audience. And that is always what it is. So it's that keep working until you hit that crunch point where it finally then picks up and has a nice big burst and then plateaus again. It'll constantly do that.
How do you get authentic relationships in communities that later turn into organic support for your work?
I love this question. By being authentic. That is so, and it means that, like, I'm the worst person when it comes to sitting down with like branding conversations on anything. I'm the worst marketing person in that respect because I think so much of it is BS. Like if you are behind, like, so example, if you are behind a brand account, me behind IGDA. Yes, we have a voice. Yes, we have a brand. Yes, we have all of this stuff. However, I've been able to build community and build relationships with people. Again, build people who want to volunteer with me. Build friendships with people who then tell me I should go speak at conferences. Anyways, but doing that by being an actual human being, by being authentic and showing that it's not just a robot behind the brand or behind the handle. And and if you're using your personal one, it's the exact same thing where it's being authentically you, which is absolutely terrifying in most of this day and age, especially if you are in any way, shape, or form different. But it's your differences that make you beautiful, and it's your differences that'll attract the right people to you. Having that understanding of yourself and understanding of how you are as a human will help build those authentic relationships. Like I've said, for me, it's memes. And so my poor volunteers had to put up with so many memes. I've had past coworkers who had to deal with memes. They've also had to deal with me hiding tiny ducks in our old office. I do goofy things. I will always be goofy and silly and fun and a bit of a pixie. That's why my handle's Pixie Parker or Chaos Pixie, depending on where you look at me. But like, that's where I always try. Like, if you are authentically yourself, you're going to build the authentic relationships. Don't put business first. Build the human aspect of everything. Have the human aspect in mind, because that will bring you success. Again, if you don't already, get Victoria Tran's newsletter. You will see how authentic she is in that. Her authenticity oozes through, and that's why I love it, because I connect to it. And so that is the best thing you could ever do is be you. Unless you are a serial killer, in which case maybe don't. But that is a whole other conversation.
All right. Last but not least, because we're running out of time.
Whoops.
Parker, is there a way to reach out? Because I think your input on games would be so helpful.
Amazing. I'm actually going to go to my last slide, because that kind of actually doesn't really work. My slides aren't up anymore. It's fine. I've got this here. You can kind of see it afterwards. I will also drop. So this is mine outside of everything else. You can bug me through IGDA if you felt like it. Parker@igda.org. I do have my own little company that I technically work with a bunch of different people on. A bunch of different companies, rather. But Parker@alchemistproductions.net. That is one of the other ways. Otherwise, Chaos Pixie on Blue Sky. The Pixie Parker almost everywhere else. Pixie Parker on Discord. I am in a bunch of places. If you look in the Indie Games Business, the Power Company, like their Discord server, the Power Group server, I am in there. I'm not active, but I'm in there. Or if you go to the IGDA Discord, which is just Discord.
Just tag her. That's just the easy way.
You probably could get away with that. I respond to things. I live on Discord, y'all. But yeah, so I exist all across the internet. Eventually, if you see a weird little pixie everybody's favorite Canadian pocket pixie. That's what I call myself. And that's what I run with.
Parker, you're awesome. We adore you. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to be right back in just a few minutes with our last speaker for our May Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.